Hi there. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome back to our Friday live question and answer class. You can ask questions at any time in the chat here on YouTube, and I will answer your questions regarding the American accent, pronunciation, intonation. You can talk about words you need help with or concepts you'd like me to talk about. The theme for today's class will be about intonation, which is the rhythm, the stress patterns, the music of speech. And I want to give you some basic information to help you with errors that I often hear and what are some of the basic things to understand about intonation. Intonation is fairly complex, but if you know a few simple things, it can really help you be well understood when you're speaking English, not have misunderstandings. I often tell people that your pronunciation can be exactly correct, but if your intonation is different or isn't correct, it can really cause some problems with people understanding you. I think most Americans have actually a better ability to understand things that are mispronounced than they have to understand different intonation patterns. Because if you ask the average American what is intonation, they might not be able to tell you. They just do it because they learned it as they learned to speak English, just like you do your native language intonation naturally when you're speaking your native language. And the tendency is when you spoke another language first, the next languages that you speak, you tend to bring your native language intonation into that new language somewhat. Now, of course, if you've been living in the US, speaking English for a long time, you're going to have a lot of American intonation patterns. But again, like the Americans, you might not know what those are and how to use them. So a little bit of knowledge about the rules of intonation and how it works, checking yourself to see where you're following those rules and understanding them, and then finding the places that I'm going to highlight today where maybe you're making some differences or some errors can be very useful. So go ahead and ask your questions at any time. It can be about intonation or about other topics. I'll be mostly focusing on the intonation today. Hi, nice to see you. Two things about intonation. Number one, we have intonation in words, in just single words, based on the syllables of the word. And the good news for this type of intonation is that a word's intonation does not change. So if I have the word banana, it is always going to be pronounced with the same intonation pattern, banana, with that middle syllable stressed. Sometimes people are a little bit unclear about what a syllable is, and basically it's how you can break apart the word. So banana has three sounds, or three combinations of sounds, three syllables. There's some technical rules about consonants and vowel sounds and syllables, and you can get more details on that on my website, speechmodification.com. If you look up, use the search tools to look up the word syllable, it'll talk a little bit about that in different contexts. But for today, what I'd like you to know is that longer words that have more than one syllable always have one syllable that has the primary stress. So in banana, it's the middle syllable. And two things happen when I have a stressed syllable. Number one, that syllable is longer than the other two syllables. And this is the most important element. So for banana, it's short, long, short. And one of the main error patterns that I hear is that you might be too even across the syllables. You might be saying banana, going somewhat slowly across all three, or banana, going quickly across all three. And it doesn't have to be hugely stretched, but the middle syllable really should be a contrasting length to the other two. Banana. You can hear how that sounds more American, and it's clear to the American what word you're saying. Robbie is saying he doesn't know where to stress the syllables because he's not a native speaker, he or she. I think you're a he. Sorry if I got that wrong. And I will show you how to learn that and some resources for knowing which syllable gets the stress? That is a very good question. You probably are saying many words correctly with the correct syllable stress already. And you probably have maybe a few that you're too even across the syllables, or you may be stressing the incorrect syllable. So I'll tell you how to check that and some resources for that in just a moment. So first of all, and most important, we have a difference in length on the syllables. And then secondly, what happens is that the stressed syllable often has a clear vowel. So the example in this word, the vowel, the letter A says the the black cat vowel in the middle syllable, banana. And it has a reduced vowel, schwa, the sound, in the other two syllables. So along with being short, it also has, we don't really say that clear A vowel, the sound. We just say ba-na-na. So it sounds like ba-na-na. And I like this example just because all of the letters are A. It's a fairly simple word, but you'll find that this information is true and useful for many, many words. So frequently, when the second syllable is stressed, like in banana, the first syllable will have a reduced vowel. So some common examples that I often hear people make errors are words like today. We don't say that as a two, even though this word is two and these words are two. We don't use the clear vowel oo for this. We use a schwa, so it sounds like today. And our clear vowel is here. So short, long, today, reduced vowel, clear vowel. So how to know which syllable has the stress? When I look in the online dictionary, they actually mark the stress with a little line before the stress syllable. So if I look up today in the online dictionary, I'll see this line before the A. Now, many people are intimidated by when they see the pronunciation help, the pronunciation guide in a dictionary. And if you've been watching my class, coming to class, watching my videos, you might start to be familiar with some of these symbols. This is the IPA, or the International Phonetic Alphabet. Don't worry, you don't have to learn everything about the IPA, but I do suggest paying attention to this symbol for the sound, which we call vowel schwa, because that will tell you it's a reduced sound and an unstressed syllable. And you can learn that little symbol that goes before the stressed vowel. The other thing I like about the online dictionary is that I can look up the word and I can click on it and it will say the word for me. The dictionary I like, the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, has very good recordings of actual Americans saying these words. The other thing I like about that dictionary is it has a British speaker and an American speaker. So sometimes the pronunciation, the intonation of the words is different between different dialects of English. And maybe the English that you learn to speak or that you're more familiar with is more similar to the British English. And that way you can also find if you have a different pattern because of that background. So this symbol, it comes in the reduced syllable, in the reduced vowel for the unstressed syllable. One word that we often need that for is the word today. So not today, but today. Other examples are words that begin with A, like above, across, around. Again, the first syllable is not stressed. Second syllable has the stress. And the first vowel is the schwa vowel. It sounds like So above, and across rather than above or above or above. So those are some common errors that I hear. And if you say today or across or across, if you use a clear vowel on those, people will still probably understand you. But overall, if you have a different stress pattern on words or a different, if you're too even across the syllables, it's just more work for the listener to know what words you're saying and to understand you. So that's one place where you can begin to learn some of the common words and what stress patterns they have and start listening for it around you in American speech as well. So let's see. I'm going to talk a little bit more about syllable stress in words, and I'll show you some resources now that you can use. So to learn kind of some of the basics about syllables and how to look up words, you can use my website, speechmodification.com. And here we have the link for, I'm putting it in chat for you, the link for one basic lesson about syllables. I do also have a full intonation playlist here on YouTube where I talk about syllables, I talk about specific words, I talk about overall intonation patterns and sentences. So that's a really good starting point for some of the lessons to understand intonation. I also have a lot of information about this in my online course, on my online courses. I recommend for those of you new to my online courses that you check out my 6-week course. So I'll show you that now. And what you'll find there is if you're on speechmodification.com and you go to my courses page, the week 2 of the 6-week course, here's the 6-week course, gives you a basic understanding of how to get started with practicing your intonation. And so you can see when you go to the course, you can read reviews, see how it's helped other speakers. You can see some preview videos, and then there's also the full curriculum. So week by week, it shows you each of the lessons. So here we have week 2, and it's an introduction to intonation, and it gives you some practical practice for using intonation when you have to do small talk, when you have to introduce yourself, when you're connecting with people. And so you can learn and practice on some simple phrases and sentences, also learn how to stress which words. And then you can also begin to apply these intonation patterns when you're listening to the English around you and when you're interacting with other people professionally and socially. Okay, so let's see. I'm just looking at the chat here. And okay, so that lesson will help you with looking at words. The other errors I hear on words, besides being too even across the syllables or stressing the incorrect syllable, are that sometimes the way the word is spelled makes us think there are more syllables than there are. So I have a lesson for that as well. I'll give you the link for that now, and you can check that out. So this is an error that I often hear on words where people are just saying too many syllables. So for example, the word vegetable, the way it's written, it looks maybe like it should be vegetable. But actually, it's just vegetable. There's just 3 syllables there. And in this case, the stress falls on the first syllable, veg. So that one's long, veg, and table is short, vegetable. Again, it follows our rules of the first vowel is a clear vowel, veg, and the next 2 vowels, table, are schwas. And in this case, there's almost no vowel at all in that last syllable. We use what's called a syllabic L there, vegetable, bull, where I really don't have much of a vowel sound. If there were any vowel, it would be the schwa vowel again. So vegetable, I want to be long and short on these 2. And I don't want vegetable, but rather vegetable. Similarly, the word omelet, I just heard this one on when the Siri on the phone was saying the word omelet, she made the mistake of adding a syllable here. So again, it should be omelet, 2 syllables rather than 3, not omelette, but omelet. I also sometimes hear both Americans and non-Americans say the word athlete with an extra syllable. There's no spelling that makes that seem that way, but it's just 2 syllables as well. Athlete, first syllable stress, and it's not athlete, but it's athlete. So again, you can look up in the dictionary and see where the stress is. I think it's really useful to listen and repeat and hear the stress pattern. Sometimes it's hard to know whether or not you're doing a stress pattern correctly. And so the lesson in my course has the words divided. So there is a long word list and recordings for words with first syllable stress so that you can get that patterning. You can try interest, different, anything, and they all have the first syllable stress. And you can notice, okay, maybe I have a slightly different pronunciation pattern or intonation pattern for those words. It can help you identify which words you have difficulty with. Another way to know is that sometimes if you have checked your pronunciation of a word and you know you're making the sounds in that word correctly, but people still have difficulty understanding you, it may be because you're using a different intonation pattern. So that's another red flag for you in terms of understanding the syllable stress in words. So Robbie is saying that a big problem facing the non-native English speakers are the vowels. Yes, so so it is very confusing knowing what vowel sound to make in different words. As you're looking at specific words, again, using the online dictionary resources, using my videos and my website can help you learn about the vowel sounds and which vowels go in which words. And that is definitely something that we spend time on in these courses, in these free classes. And most of my videos are talking about pronunciation and will give you assistance on specific words for vowels as well as learning those vowel sounds. It is challenging. The way to go, I feel, is to identify which vowels are different in your native language and American English and begin to learn the most commonly used words that have a certain vowel sound in English. Then you begin to be able to hear that sound better, produce that sound better, and expand your knowledge of which words have which vowel sounds. Okay, so very good. So that's some basic information about intonation for words. Now let's talk a little bit about intonation in sentences. So we did address this last week. I do talk about it, as I said, in my intonation playlist and in my on my website and in my online courses. But what I want to let you know is that while the intonation in a word doesn't change, it's always going to be the same syllable that gets the stress for the same word. The intonation in a sentence can change to change the meaning of the sentence. So we demonstrated this last week talking about the same sentence and how it can change. The basic pattern for stressing in a sentence is that the last content word of a sentence is stressed. So the last word that has meaning, that's more important, that's not a little word, a little structure word like it or the or he, but a noun or a verb, an adjective, something that is important, gets the stress, and it's the one that comes at the end of the phrase or at the end of the sentence. So let's look at an example. If I used the sentence, say, I didn't mean for that to happen. Okay, first let's look at what are the content words in this sentence. So mean is a verb, that's pretty important. Happen is a verb. And then maybe didn't and that. Those are kind of important, but these are my main content words, mean and happen. So we do have the main stress is going to fall on the last word here, happen. And within that, there is a syllable stress, first syllable, happen. So here's my main place where my stress falls. And I use the same thing that I do for syllables. That's going to be longer. So I didn't mean for that to happen. I didn't mean for that to happen. So you can hear how I'm holding that syllable longer. That's where my stress is. I also tend to use pitch patterns. So I'm going to be going, I didn't mean for that to happen. Happen. I rise up in pitch, and then I fall off to show that it's the end of the phrase. So where my stress is, my voice goes up. Where the phrase ends, my voice goes down, and the rest of the time, it's mostly in the middle. So that's the standard way we would use intonation in this sentence. I didn't mean for that to happen. Now, if I change which word gets the stress, If I lengthen and use pitch on a different word, I can change the meaning of this sentence. So for example, if I stressed instead of happen, I stressed I didn't mean for that to happen, then I'm calling attention to the that it's me. That's making it more important. I didn't mean that. Someone else may have meant that. Or for example, I didn't mean for that to happen. I meant for something else to happen, but not that. So what happened was a surprise to me. I didn't mean for that to happen. So you can hear how the overall meaning is the same, but an implied meaning or a more subtle meaning changes based on what word gets the stress. This is a fairly complex example of that. Let's look at a more simple example. For example, how about the phrase, she kissed him? Again, if we first look at what's the most important word here, which word has the most meaning, which one is a content word versus a structure word, it's going to be the verb kissed. She and him are smaller, less important words. So she kissed him. My main usual stress pattern is going to be she kissed him. She kissed him. Longer on kissed, rising up and falling off. She kissed him. But I could also change my stress pattern and I could say, she kissed him. That would highlight that it was this particular she. This woman kissed him, not someone else. Or I could highlight him. She kissed him versus kissing someone else. So depending on what I'm stressing, I'm giving a slightly different meaning. Overall, in general, the most standard stress pattern is to stress the last content word. So again, you are probably already understanding this when you're listening to English. You're probably already using it somewhat, but there may be places where you're unintentionally stressing a different word than the Americans would stress, and maybe slightly changing the meaning or maybe making it a little bit more confusing for your listener to understand. In my intonation playlist, you can look at basic intonation for statements, for questions, lots of example sentences with visuals to show you and audio practice to listen and repeat so you can get that patterning, you can hear it and begin to use it. So my intonation playlist that I've been mentioning is, you can find that on my channel page. If you haven't yet been to the channel page and looked at the resources there are quite a few playlists that help you focus on different topics for American accent training. So if your issue is with intonation, you can begin with the intonation playlist. If you have a lot of struggles with vowel sounds, you can go to my vowels playlist. There are playlists for other pronunciation patterns like R and TH. And then there's also some accent challenges. So you can go through a 30-day challenge. You can go through my 5x5 playlist that gives you 5 short 5-minute lessons for more advanced practice. Many, many different resources there on Speech Modification Seattle on YouTube. If you haven't yet subscribed, that's a great idea because you can use notifications to find out when I have uploaded new videos and when my next live classes will be, so you can be sure to be a part of the class. If you can't make it to the live class, but you still are interested in the topic, there's a playlist for all of the past live streams. And also you can leave your comments in the chat on past videos and past classes, and I will give you the answers to your questions as well. So even if you can't make it at this time, come back and check out the class afterwards, ask your questions, find out these great resources that you can use for free. I also want to give you the category or the list of intonation lessons I have on my website, speechmodification.com. That's here in the chat. You can go there and find lots of different detailed lessons about intonation. That's going to help you improve in that area. And those are all free as well. You can get my online courses. They have a 2-week free trial, so you can check those out and see if that kind of learning works well for you. And they also have a very low subscription price, so less than $5 a month. Free to try it out, check it out, and you might find that that's a really helpful way to organize the information and learn more about the American accent. There's a lot to learn. And I really try to highlight the most important things first for you that'll have the biggest impact on your speech. The idea really is to be clearly understood and to understand what it is about your own accent that may cause problems for understanding. I also can certainly help you if you're interested in some of the details to really sound more American, but my priority is always clear communication and being well understood. So thank you for being a part of class today and for your comments and questions. I'll be back next week with a new topic on Friday at our free Friday live class, 12 o'clock Pacific time. So thanks so much for being a part of class today. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. speechmodification.com.